asking you, do you have an appetite for change, or do you sense an appetite for change out there this election? There sure was last election 4 years ago, and we saw considerable change around the table. We had a new mayor, and I think it was 10 new councillors. I'm not sure there's the same appetite for change. We'll get a fair amount of change because 6 councillors will not be returning. But do you think there is something in the air that voters are interested in seeing some changes around City Hall? So I'd like to hear from you on that. And the other issue we've been talking about, 23 councillors. Too many? Or are you satisfied that having one councillor for every 38,000 residents is a pretty good representation, given the fact that in Toronto it's almost double that? One councillor for 60,000. If we applied Toronto's formula, we'd have about 15 councillors around the table at City Hall. This issue will be addressed in the next session, or the next council after the election at some point. So I'm interested in sort of tapping your thoughts right now. Do you think the number is right? Do you think we have the representation right at 23? Or do you think maybe we've pretty well figured out and mastered the art of amalgamated city government here? Maybe we don't need quite as many councillors going forward. So love to hear from you on these two issues. Appetite for change and the number of councillors out there. Do you think we've got it right? 5218255. We're going to take a very brief break. Love to come back and take some calls from you on 580 CFRA. Pretty significantly, maybe 10%, a little bit more than 10% this year. I don't know whether that means anything, whether there's an appetite for change driving people there, or whether it's just there was more availability for advance voting this year, so more people took advantage of it. But give me your sense. I'm sure you talk about it around the kitchen table. Maybe with your friends, across the fence. Sunny afternoon, we've had many of those this summer, this fall. Do you sense there's an appetite for change out there? And the other question I've been asking you, do we have it right with the formula that currently means we have 23 councillors around the council table plus a mayor? That's a representation rate of about 38,400 citizens for each councillor. In Toronto, it's closer to 60,000. If we took the Toronto formula, we'd have about 15 councillors in Ottawa, not 23. Are you satisfied we've got it right? We're more than a decade into one government here, one city government, fully amalgamated city government. Do you think we need 23 wards, 23 representatives, the offices that support them, everything else? Or do you think, and they will be talking about this over the next 4 years, do you think it's time to revisit that number? So I'm asking you those questions. 18255, star 580 on your Bell mobility system. Guy is calling. It's Guy Annable, actually. He is the one of the candidates out at College Ward and joins us now. Guy, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Rick. Thanks for taking my call. My interest was piqued when you were talking about the ward consolidation issue. Early in the campaign, I posted kind of a little brief or white paper on unpublished Ottawa, which got some amazing response. And I just want to go over some of my experiences on the 3 years I was on the Business Advisory Committee at the City of Ottawa.
All right, very quickly, Guy.
We've done 7 ward reviews since 2003. We've never had a ward consolidation vote, or we've never suggested, but we've had 7 ward reviews. If, in my brief, I suggest that we look at Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary, which you've already mentioned Toronto, but basically you've got 14, 16, and 15 councillors in those cities, and Calgary is very, very reminiscent to us. In closing, Rick, it's very hard to get council to vote on the consolidation because we haven't achieved any of the benefits since amalgamation. And if you look at the core wards that are zero growth or no growth, College being one of them, you could easily take College and Knoxdale Maribel and amalgamate them. Why is it one councillor is on one side of Maribel Road, another councillor is on the other side of Maribel Road, and there's a huge issue right now in what we're going to do with traffic down Maribel Road. Bay Ward and Kitchissippi would be a perfect match. Now, if we brought that down to 15 or 16 wards, maybe less mouths at the table would give us more consensus as well, because we've got 23 little fiefdoms out there. And I'm looking, when I first registered, Rick, when you look at the map of the City of Ottawa, it's the suburbs that are growing. So we need to look at the Jan Harder's wards and give them more expansion, and we need to consolidate in the core and also bridge that rural and urban divide. So I think that it's very hard to get council to vote on on eliminating their own jobs. That's the big issue that I've
Yeah,
seen.
I would agree with you. That's the biggest problem. But let me ask you this. The issue that always arises has to do with the rural wards. There are 4 of them in Ottawa. There was a great concern during the amalgamation process that they would be underrepresented in one city and that they would suffer as a result. If you're going to apply a new formula that gets us down to 15 councillors, presumably you're going to have fewer rural wards, and doesn't that exacerbate a problem that's still a matter of concern out there?
It is a concern, Rick, but I do think that one thing I have seen in the debates that I've been to in the landowners' meetings is we have to bridge that rural-urban divide. ARAC, the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee, needs to be strengthened, and I'm hoping the next mayor will do that as well. But without getting into that, as I say, one other thing, an excellent idea a reporter from Algonquin gave me. In Edmonton, they have one vote for a citywide councillor, in which any resident can vote for any councillor just because they don't live in the ward. So if you like somebody that's doing some good work in another ward, you can actually, in Edmonton, make a vote for a councillor that you don't even live in his ward. So you've got 3 votes, one for mayor, one for councillor, and one for citywide councillor, which increases the democracy and lessens the thumb and the incumbency issue that so many of these councillors, and that I have personally experienced with 11 community associations and not being able to get any debates in College Ward, and I wonder why. So I really had some interesting experiences over this election. So I would think that this committee that would look at the consolidation of wards would also look at redrawing some of the electoral things. I love that citywide councillor vote because it allows people that are doing good work to be recognized without having to live in that ward.
Yeah.
Edmonton has a really innovative program on that, which I learned from a reporter from Algonquin.
All right, Guy, we've got to go, but it does raise an interesting question. If I had a third vote to cast, and I picked a councillor from some other ward that I thought was presenting good citywide ideas and a full city vision, not just one confined to his or her ward, we'd probably all benefit from having votes to cast in favor of those particular candidates. You might get more candidates with a citywide vision, and the campaign platform put out by each candidate would have to be reflective of that if they wanted to attract some citywide support.
Well, in closing, Rick, as I say, we've never achieved any benefits of amalgamation that we were supposed to in 1999, and I do agree that it increases democracy and lessens the incumbency issue with regards to people that have had their hand at the wheel for, let's say, a little too long.
All right, Guy Annable, thank you. Guy is a candidate for College Ward.